Hello, Mark. How are you?
Hi, Rob.
Baruch Hashem.
I got your message.
Good.
Thank you.
Good. I see that Eitan with us. Eitan, hi. Dr. Les with us. Good.
Hello, Rob. How are you?
Baruch Hashem. How are you?
Modim l'simcha.
Hagim uzmanim lesason. It's so nice to see you all. Baruch Hashem.
So, Rav, I tell you, there's a lot happening, as you all know. Well, we were in London and we came back, and just unbelievable. You know, you see the news reports, what happened when we, straight after, here we have only one night of the Chag. What had happened is that a lot of worshippers, Muslim worshippers, went into Rabbi and they barricaded themselves and they took rocks with them. So why did they do it the night before Pesach? Because they were going to throw the rocks on the Yidden davening at the Kotel. And they've done it before. It's not like it's never happened before. So the Israeli army went in to disband them. I mean, if they're going to prayer, why are they barricading themselves, you know, in the most holy Muslim place? But the world media don't want to even discuss that issue. They just say that the Israeli army went in. So it's so incredibly negative where they leave out the most important, essential part. Why did they go in? What was the reason? Anyway, it's been really quite very upsetting that two British New Orleans young girls, sisters, that they were killed intentionally. And then there was a Italian tourist in Tel Aviv that was just run down in a car ramming. So here you have Mamash Amalek. We have Bechol Devador. You know, I mean, read on the Haggadah, Bechol Devador Andu Aleinu L'Chalatenu. It really happens in every generation. They rise up to try and destroy us. And we're seeing it, we're really seeing the reality now. But we always know that Hashem will protect us because the verse continues. HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yitzilenu. So I just want to wish all our listeners, Rav, and to you and to everybody a Modim L'Simcha, a Chag Sameach, and just to know that Hashem will protect us. Bezrat Hashem.
Dr. Les, thank you very much. For everything. And the same opportunity I would like to take to thank you for loading so many videos. We're almost there. Another 200 and thing that
we're getting there. Rav, we're getting there.
We're getting there.
Slowly, so we're getting there. We're getting there.
Shkoah. Thank you very much. Okay,
thank you,
Rabotai, we're going to start the show. Shkoah, Dr. Les. בעזרת השם נעשה ונצליח, והשם עלינו ברחמיו וירוויח. The subject of the shiur tonight, Rabotai, it's going to be Chol HaMoed. What is Chol HaMoed? And towards the end, I'm going to bring a shaila that I'm sure that most of you know the answer, but we'll try to develop it. But what we're going to speak tonight is about Chol HaMoed. We'll try to explain where is the source for Chol HaMoed, what is the biblical name for Chol HaMoed. Okay, where's the source for it? We speak about the tefillin in Chol HaMoed. We'll speak about the davening in Chol HaMoed. Why did we got this festival that called Chol HaMoed? If it's a festival, we'll see just now. We'll try to go to every detail regarding Chol HaMoed Be'ezrat Hashem. But first, we would like to dedicate the shiur in the soul of Esther Kaden Bat Ketzia, Mordechai ben Rahma, Rav Avraham Chaim ben Eliezer Yaakov, Tamar bat Zehava Yaakov Salomon ben Farha, Dvora Ruth bat Beila, Shosha Blima bat Mordechai Betzalel, Miriam bat Moshe, Malka Regina bat Joya, Keti Gurgia bat Farha. And also I would like to dedicate the shiur and the soul of those that got murdered during the Chag Pesach, that please God, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will take the revenge soon when he comes, when he sends the Mashiach Be'ezrat Hashem speedily in our days. Also, I would like to dedicate the shiur in health of Menashe Naji ben Farha, Liora bat Miriam, Harav Moshe ben Bahia Batia, Harav Moshe ben Devora, Harav Avraham ben Marima, Rav Shlomo Yehuda ben Dalia, Dvora bat Esther, Orna Bluma bat Miriam, Sheina Keila bat Hana, Mordechai David ben Leah, Chaim Nahum ben Tzvi Kohen, Shmuel Ben Michal, Baruch ben Sarah Tzvi, ben Chava, Shmuel Mir ben Shosha Blima, Miriam bat Zelda, Moshe Abraham ben Hena Riva, Chaya Tzipora bat Rachel, Ayala Eden bat Rivka, Tova Liba bat Rachel, ויהודית bat Rika. Please God, רפואה שלמה to all of them, ולכל שאר חולי ופצועי עמו בית ישראל. So, what is Chol HaMoed? As you all know, after the first day of Pesach or the first day of Sukkot in Eretz Israel, immediately come Chol HaMoed. In the Eshba, where we live, Chol HaMoed start only after the second day. That means the third day of Pesach, it's already Chol HaMoed, or the third day of Sukkot, it's Chol HaMoed. Okay, what is the status of those days? We have to ask ourselves, what is the status of Chol HaMoed? We all know Chol HaMoed, we hear about Chol HaMoed. What do we know about Chol HaMoed? What does it mean, the word Chol HaMoed? So Chol HaMoed, it means circular and holy. Okay, circular and holy, we have to understand that. Circular and holy. And what's standing behind it, Rabotai? We have to understand. So the days of Chol HaMoed, they are intermediate days that we have between the festival to the next festival. What does it mean? We have the beginning of Sukkot, for example. Then we have Shmini, the 8 days of Sukkot. The same in Pesach. We have the beginning of Pesach, then we have Shvi'i Shel Pesach. That means that Yemei Chol HaMoed, the day of Chol HaMoed, they are intermediate days that link us to the next festival. And we'll explain soon how it works. First of all, we have to understand what is the biblical name for Chol HaMoed. Because when Hazal constitute for us those names, they didn't just decide to give us a day that's called a circular and a holy day. Okay, so where's the source to it? The source to it, first of all, come from Sefer Vayikra in Parashat Emor, chapter 23, in verse 37. Hazal, the Torah call it, the biblical name of it, Hazal call it Mikre Kodesh. Yemei Mikre Kodesh. That's the biblical name for Chol HaMoed. Now, what is the connection between Chol HaMoed, okay, to the holy? That means, what is the connection between the circular and the holy days? So, first of all, we have to understand that during our davening in Chol HaMoed, we actually doing the integration of the holiness and the, what we call it, a circular. Sorry, what does it mean? So if you look in Tfilat Shacharit, what do we do in Tfilat Shacharit usually? It's a normal Tfilat Shacharit, Rabotai. The Tfilat Shacharit that we daven in Chol HaMoed, it's a normal Tfilat Shacharit, except that we're adding up Ya'aleh v'Yavo. That's the only difference. And we obviously don't say Tahanun. But when we move already to Musaf, we see a different situation there. Because in Tfilat Musaf, beside that it's a Musaf, it's a Musaf that we specially say, because Musaf, it awards the korbanot that used to be during the time that Beit HaMikdash was exist. So they used to sacrifice the extra korbanot that they didn't have a chance to bring an hag. Okay? So that's the Tfilat Musaf awards the extra korbanot. Okay? But in Tfilat Musaf, already that we see that there is something different. And we'll soon gonna explain everything. Because we have to understand one important principle, Rabotai, that in Tfilat Shacharit, in Tfilat Mincha, in Tfilat Arvit, why I don't mention Musaf? Because Musaf, no one knows it off by heart, and usually people, when they read it from the Siddur. But Tfilat Shacharit, Tfilat Mincha, and Tfilat Musaf, Can happen that the person forgot to say Ya'aleh ve'yavo. So what should he do? What should he do? So we have to understand that as long that he didn't finish the davening, he go back to Retzeh, okay? And he start from Retzeh and say Ya'aleh ve'yavo. But if he finished the davening, although that he didn't step 3 steps to the back, he have to return to the beginning and daven again to mention Ya'aleh ve'yavo. So that's how so important the davening, to show us that yes, it's a circular, but from the other part, it's very holy days. And we'll explain why it's so holy. Now, the same like we daven during the Yom Tov, Tfilat Musaf, okay? Or on Shabbat that we daven Musaf, okay? We have to understand that in Chol HaMoed we also say Musaf. Why? Because those, the Musafim, the Korbanot, the sacrifice that used to sacrifice extra. And that's when make the Chol HaMoed in our davening that we combine together the circular, that it's Chol, and Moed, that it's holy. And that's how we do in our davening. Okay, then we have something very interesting also in Chol HaMoed. And Rabotai, this is a halacha that I want to share with you, and you'll have to understand, because it's divided to 3 parts, that halacha. Regarding tefillin in Rosh, not in Rosh Chodesh, in Chol HaMoed. In Chol HaMoed, there is a mahloket amongst the Rishonim. The Rishonim is the first, they're around 1,000, 1,500 years ago. Should a person put a tefillin in Chol HaMoed? What is the mahloket in putting tefillin in Chol HaMoed? Why there is a mahloket? We have to understand. So we have to understand that the main reason for it is like this. Chazal explained that every day a person should have 2 signs on him. The one sign is the Brit Milah that every man have, every Jewish person have. The second sign is the tefillin that we put. On Shabbat, because Shabbat is a oath by himself and we say Musaf, therefore we don't have to put tefillin, and the same in a festival. So come the Rishonim and have a debate. Should on Chol HaMoed, that it's a day that circular from one way, but from the other day, it's also holy because we say Musaf. Therefore, should we put the tefillin or not? That's the mahloket. Le'alacha bin Pasken, the Shulchan Aruch Pasken like this, according to the Rashba, Rabbi Shlomo ben Aderet, he bringing his opinion, that in Chol HaMoed we do not put tefillin. That's for Sfaradim. The Rama, Rabbi Moshe Isserlich, he said like this, and he said, Nahagu Rabim le'aniach tefillin b'Chol HaMoed. He said it's a custom that many used to put tefillin in Chol HaMoed. Okay? Come the Mishnah Brura and ask a question. When you put in the tefillin in Chol HaMoed, should you say brocha or not? So the Mishnah Brura, Rabotai, if you want to check it up, Siman Lamed Aleph, that means verse 31, Sa'if Katan, that means verse 8, say that Nahon, that there is a custom to put a tefillin, okay, but you should put the tefillin without saying a brocha. And that brought the Mishnah Brura, brought the opinion of the Rosh, the Mordechai, the Tur, and the Mahari. And that used to be the custom of the Mahari. Okay, so we explained that all the debate, it's due, should we have a sign or we shouldn't have a sign on Chol HaMoed? Is the Musaf considered a sign or not? In Eretz Israel, all the poskim pasken, because Eretz Israel is Mara Da'atra, is Shulchan Aruch, Rabbi Yosef Karo, therefore no one should put tefillin in Eretz Israel. Okay? In Eretz Israel, many people, the pasken, most of the Gedolim pasken, they don't put tefillin in Chol HaMoed. That's regarding tefillin. We explained the tefillot and the tefillin. Now we have to understand why did they given us those days of Chol HaMoed? Why did Hazal that when they make the festival according to the Torah, they also put those 7 days that call Kirei Moed in the Torah, they call it Chol HaMoed. Why is it so important for us to have Chol HaMoed? What is the importance about it? So I saw today when I was sitting between Mincha and Mariv Shu, I was looking at Sefer HaChinuch. And I saw it actually before. I just wanted to repeat myself to make sure that I'm not making a mistake. And Sefer HaChinuch is a book about the positive and the negative command that he explained all the mitzvot that we have in the Torah and all the custom that we have in the Torah. And the Sefer HaChinuch, it's a book that many people say that it's been written by Rabbi Aaron HaLevin. Rabbi Aaron HaLevin actually born in a city of Gorondia around 788 years ago in Spain, in mitzvah number 323. Listen what he explained. And he said like this: why did they receive Chol HaMoed? Why did we got those days that call Chol HaMoed? כדי שיתעסקו ישראל בתורה הקדושה מתוך שמחה ונחת. That means that the main reason that the Almighty given us those days, and Hazal constituted for us to do it, to keep it, for the simple reason, משום שיעסקו בתורה הקדושה מתוך שמחה ונחת. That means that we should learn Torah during Chol HaMoed with peace and tranquility. That means to have a nachat ruach, to have a bit of peace, to focus, to learn the Torah with all the focusing that we can put on studying Torah. That means, explain Rabbi Aaron HaLevin, he explained like this in his book, what it means, Nahat, that they should not think about their work, they should not think about their business during the days of Chol HaMoed. Ado, here come the Ado. Hazal in the Gemara Masechet Hagiga, in page 18, folio 1. Okay, Hazal tell us that the person allowed to work in Chol HaMoed if there is a thing that's called Davara Avud. What it means, Davara Avud? It's another halacha that we have to remember in Chol HaMoed, that if a person can lose his job or can lose money because of it, that he doesn't work on Chol HaMoed, that Hazal didn't put the prohibition. Then a person can do whatever you have to do. That if you know that you have workers to pay, for example, and if they're not going to come to work, you have to pay them for nothing. He's obligated, okay? And he can work on Chol HaMoed. What is the spiritual meaning of Chol HaMoed? We have to understand what is the spiritual meaning of those days that call Chol HaMoed. And not for nothing, we got those days of Chol HaMoed. As we explained, it's a time for us to study Torah with full kavanah, with 100% kavanah to study Torah. Now, we have to understand that if you look after Yom Tov, when come Chol HaMoed, immediately we have decline in the feeling of the spiritual that we compare to what we have in Yom Tov. And we have to understand why is that suddenly we have a decline in spirituality until the next Yom Tov. That means Pesach, we was at such a high level of spirituality, Leila Seder, we was preparing, and the next thing come Chol HaMoed, and that spirituality feeling start to get decline actually. And then on Shvei of Pesach, we're starting again to climb again. What is that? So I'm going to bring two different interpretations. The first interpretation that I would like to bring is of the interpretation of the Baal Shem Tov. The Baal Shem Tov is Rabbi Israel ben Eliezer. Rabbi Israel ben Eliezer, he born around 333 years ago, plus minus. And he born in Galicia, first of all. He started the movement of Hasidut, that was the Baal Shem Tov. And he bringing an elegy to explain how's it work. And he said like this. He said, during the Yom Tov, people get to high spiritual level, and suddenly, during Chol HaMoed, we have this decline. He said, I'll explain to you an analogy for you to understand. He said, if you take a little baby and you try to teach him to walk. So first thing, you hold both of his hand, both of his arm, and you walk with him. When you see that he's comfortable with that and he starts walking, the next stage that the parents do, they try to take one hand off. After that, they try to take both of the hands off. And the baby usually fall down and he starts again, and we help him until he stand on his foot and he learn to walk. Say the Baal Shem Tov like this. He said that the main idea that HaKadosh Baruch Hu giving us the festival is to climb very high in spiritual level. That decline is to make us strong with studying Torah during Chol HaMoed. So when we receive the second part of Yom Tov, spiritually we're going to be ready to absorb more than as much as we can from that Yom Tov. So he said that the main reason that we receive Chol HaMoed is to help us, that each individually have to work on himself to learn to walk. What it means to learn to walk? To study Torah in such a high level, okay, that he can absorb from the second part of the Yom Tov the maximum spiritual of that Yom Tov. That's how the Baal Shem Tov explained. There's another interpretation that Chazal tell us that the main reason, okay, that Chazal given us Yamim Tovim, that means the Chol HaMoed, the day of Chol HaMoed, that it's a good day, because we don't say Tahanun, it's a beautiful day, is to, first of all, to understand that we have to work on a Torah. Come the mystical Rabbi, I say, wait a minute, you know what's hiding behind it? There's a spiritual thing here that you have to understand. Now, that it will help you to build yourself to absorb the maximum spirituality from the second part of the Yom Tov. But there is here also something on a physical, that Chazal tell us that on Yom Tov, when you study Torah during Yom Tov, it's one thing. But in Chol HaMoed, you're obligated to study Torah. You know why? Because by that you study Torah during Chol HaMoed, it's to help that the prosperity, the physical prosperity and the spiritual prosperity will come down to us. By that you studying Torah, that will help you, okay, to build your prosperity during Chol HaMoed. That means the key for prosperity, if a person wants brocha in his parnasa, number one, to avoid working in Chol HaMoed. Number two, studying Torah in Chol HaMoed. So we see from here that Chol HaMoed, it's not just a normal day that we call it Chol, that it's circular, but it's also Moed. There's a secret behind it. And the secret is to bring to us not only the spiritual prosperity, also the physical prosperity. And who doesn't need parnasa? The second part of the shiur, I would like to discuss with you something very interesting that Chazal in a Gemara in Moed Katan page 8, folio 2, and the Mishnah in Moed Katan in chapter 1, Mishnah 7, says something very interesting. I don't know how many of you know it. I'm sure that most of you know it, but I would like to take that Mishnah and develop it and to connect it to our She'or. Although it's speaking about Chol HaMoed, but to develop it. And Hazal in the Mishnah and in the Gemara tell us like this: En nos'im nashim b'moed velo betulot velo almanot velo meyabmin mipnei shesimcha zo lo aval mahzir gushato ve'osa isha tachshitea b'moed. What does it mean? I will translate now the Mishnah. Hazal tell us in a Mishnah, also in a Gemara, Rabota in Moed, in Gemara Moed Katan, 8 folio 2. Hazal say like this, that in a Moed, in Chol HaMoed, a person not allowed to marry a woman. Which woman? If it's the first wife, they call it the Betulot. Okay, Almanot, it's a widow, person not allowed to marry not the first wife, okay, not the widow, and not doing Yibum. To then Yibum is not by the rabbinical. Most the Rabbaniyot in Israel say that not only in Israel, all the Rabbaniyot in all over the world, they cancel the idea of Yibum. Okay, we don't do Yibum to them. Why? Because it says when a person get married, it's a simcha. What is the problem to get married on Chol HaMoed? We'll see now. But Hazal said that the person allowed to remarry the wife that he divorced, if she didn't marry after they got divorced. Why? Because it's not a simcha. Then Hazal said in a Mishnah, Ve'isha osa tachshitea. What it means, and the woman do her jewelry, what she physically sits, it's suddenly become a goldsmith. Hazal said no. That during Chol HaMoed, a woman can sit, and if she need to beauty herself, she can beauty herself. Whatever she have to do to make look nice, if she need to put nail polish and etc. in Chol HaMoed, she can do all of that. There's no problem with that. She need to put a makeup, whatever. That's leave it to the woman, okay? But we have to understand the question of Hazal. How come that we're not allowed to marry during Chol HaMoed? What is the problem with that? So in a Gemara, in Moed Katan, in page 8, folio 2, I'm going to bring 3 different opinions that from the sages. And listen what they say, we try to explain them, and then we will develop. The sage Rabbi used to say, the main reason that we're not allowed to get married on Chol HaMoed, he said like this, that because that if you get a person going to get married in Chol HaMoed, meniach simchat haregel ve'osek besimchat ishto. That means that Rabbi said that the main reason that Hazal constitute for us not to marry the woman in Chol HaMoed, that because he's going to be busy with his wife, the new wife, and he forget about the festival of Chol HaMoed. He said, therefore, we're not allowed to do that. Ula was another sage, and he said, Mipnei Torah. What it means, Mipnei Torah? That the person going to be so busy, okay, that looking and preparing for the wedding that he forgets about the Yom Tov. That's Ula. Come Rabbi Yitzhak Napaha. It's Rabbi Yitzhak Napaha was a sage that his job to be Napah. He was like an Iron Man. Okay, used to work with metal. Okay, and he says something extraordinary. Listen to what he said. Rabbi Yitzhak Napaha said, "Mipnei bitul piriya verivia." You know why Hazal constitute for us not to marry a wife in Chol HaMoed? He said, "Mipnei piriya verivia." Rashi Akadosh there explain. Rashi says something extraordinary. You know what Rashi said? Rashi said that the person, if you're gonna allow him to marry on Chol HaMoed, he's gonna postpone his wedding dafka to Chol HaMoed, and then he's gonna celebrate the festival and the wedding together. He'll make one Sauda. Come the Rambam, the great eagle, Rabbi Moshe ben Maimon. He born in the city of Cordova. Cordova is in Spain around 888 years ago. And in his commentary on the Mishnah, he's playing, you know why the main reason that Hazal, all the three sages say that? She'en me'arvevim simcha besimcha. That means that all of that, Hazal tell us, that you cannot get married on Chol HaMoed, that you're going to mix the simcha, that means the joy of the festival, with the joy of the wedding. That's what Hazal said. That means by that Hazal put a prohibition to get married in Chol HaMoed, the main reason for it, if you look at all three of them, it's not to mix the joy and the enjoyment of the festival, whatever the festival is, with the joy of the wedding. Rabbi Ovadia Bartenura, he born in the city of Bortone, that's in north of Italy. He born around 583 years ago, plus minus. He also wrote commentary on a Mishnah. And Rabbi Ovadia Bartenura actually bring something else. And he said, Mipnei she'en me'arvevim simchat haregel besimcha aheret. What does it mean? That Hazal tell us, also in the Gemara, that the main reason that you cannot mix two different kind of joys, okay, and happiness in one. That means you have to understand that when you get married, you have to give your wife the full attention. That's the Sheva Brachot. Obviously, if she's not a widow, if it's not second wife, you know, that's a different thing. That's Sheva Brachot. If it's a second marriage and she's a widow and etc., they don't do full Sheva Brachot. But the question is, that you have to understand that every simcha that you have to give it a full attention. Where do you give the full attention? In every festival. That means if you have Hag Pesach, give it the full attention. You want to get married, in a time of marriage, you can't mix the festival of Pesach with the festival of the marriage. Each one have to be individual. And that's the main reason that Hazal come and tell us, okay, that you can't marry during Chol HaMoed. What are we doing lehalacha? What is lehalacha? Are we allowed or not? So far it was the Gemara. So the Shulchan Aruch, Rabbi Yosef Karo that wrote the Shulchan Aruch, listen what he said. He wrote, he born in the city of Toledo, just to give you history, 535 years ago in Spain. And in the Shulchan Aruch in Siman Taf Kuf Mem Vav, Siman Aleph, that means chapter 546, verse 1, he pasken that lehalacha, a person cannot marry a woman in Chol HaMoed. The Mishnah Brura, listen what the Mishnah Brura said on the same chapter, in the same verse. He said, "Ve'afilu nisuin bilvad belo seuda, asur she'en marbim me'arvevim simcha besimcha." Come the Mishnah Brura and say, not only that you're not allowed to get married in Chol HaMoed, you can say, you know what, I'll get married in Chol HaMoed, but the party and the simcha I'll do after the festival. Come the Mishnah Brura and say, even if you're not going to do the Sauda is the party that we have a Saudat mitzvah, okay? Even that, if you tell that you're going to do it later and you do the Simcha later, you're not allowed. So from here, we see something very important about that. We have to understand what's happening here. that number one, as we explained, that the law of Chol HaMoed, there's many laws into it, and they're very complicated. Many people ask me, like today I've been asked a number of questions. Is a person allowed to have a shave? Nothing to do with the Omer. In Chol HaMoed in general, a person not allowed to have a haircut or to have a shave during Chol HaMoed. And the main reason for it is Shema Yikanes LaMoed, that the person will enter the festival while he's not shaved, while he's not groomed, not have a haircut. It's called menuval. So Hazal say no. Another question that I received today, that is a person allowed to have laundry during the what do you call it? During the Chol HaMoed. A person not allowed to have a laundry during Chol HaMoed. As you all see, I think that there is a load shedding, so I'll shorten the show quickly. No, it's come back. I don't know what's happening. Regarding polishing shoes, a person can polish shoes in Chol HaMoed. There's no problem with that. Regarding ironing in Chol HaMoed, the person can do ironing in Chol HaMoed. There's no problem with that. Regarding cleaning the house, washing, there's no problem with that. Laundry, it's a bit of a problem to do laundry, to do the washing, for the simple reason because that during Chol HaMoed we have one problem. In Chol HaMoed we not do laundry. That's to make sure that people shouldn't leave all their washing and enter with dirty clothes to the festival. So they constitute for us Hazal to do the laundry before. Another thing that Hazal also tell us that Nachon, that we're not allowed to do laundry. Ironing you can do, you can iron your shirt. Regarding cutting nails, it's a mahloket. The Sfaradim say that you're allowed. Other people say in Chol HaMoed you're not allowed. The Ashkenazim a bit more strict about it. What about what other question today have been asked? Is the person allowed, if a button of his shirt fell off, can he stitch it? Yes, you can stitch it because you don't do any melacha. Sorry, so you're allowed to stitch a button that fell off, because to stitch a button is not melechet oman. What it means melechet oman? It's not the person that specialized, and you need to be a special tailor. Everyone can say stitch a button. You don't need to be a tailor. You know what I'm saying? So if we look now and we summarize the show, because I know that there is, I can see outside there is load shedding, and my my UPS and my inverter telling me that there is a load shedding. So I'm going to summarize to finish the show earlier. We see something very interesting. We see that Hazal tell us very important thing, that the days of Chol HaMoed, they're special days. From one way, they're secular, but from the other day, they're holiness. And the main reason that we got those special days, that those days will help us, number one, okay, later on, to uplift ourselves to receive the second part of the holy days. That means that the main reason for it is to help us that when we enter to the second part of Yom Tov, to receive that holiness and to uplift ourselves to get the most benefit from the second part of the holiday. The mystical Rabbi explained to us that there is a secret here. By that the person studied Torah, listen to that, Rabotai, during Chol HaMoed, what does he do? The mystical Rabbi explained that those days that you study Torah and Chol HaMoed, you actually weaken the evil forces. By that you weaken the evil forces, you actually destroy all the evil forces that there is in the world, and you give in strength and energy for the holy divine, the spiritual divine. By that you're given strength to the spiritual divine, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will bring on you the physical prosperity, that's parnasa, and the spiritual prosperity. That means physical prosperity and spiritual prosperity to help us to get the most benefit for all year round. And that's why we have Chol HaMoed twice a year. One at the beginning of the year, that's now, because Nisan, Rosh Chodashim Hu Lachem, that means that's the first month according to the Torah. And then we have Sukkot towards the end of the year. That means that Hazal want us during Chol HaMoed to study Torah in peace and tranquility, that we, number one, going to weaken the evil forces. So how's that help us to get physical prosperity? By that you put more mitzvot, the evil forces cannot criticize against you. Why? Because you study Torah. So when HaKadosh Baruch Hu want to bring you prosperity, they're not going to stand, listen, he done averot. The opposite. He said, listen, he done mitzvot. He deserve it. The spiritual prosperity, by that the person learning Torah during Chol HaMoed, he's actually receiving the second part of the Yom Tov that help him to receive that spiritual prosperity, that he can understand the Torah. And that's the secret of Chol HaMoed. The secret of Chol HaMoed is to help us personally to receive the most benefit that we can get from the physical and the spiritual part that there is in the world. That Be'ezrat Hashem, we should receive that speedily in our days. And if we study Torah during Chol HaMoed, HaKadosh Baruch Hu Be'ezrat Hashem will send us speedily in our days. Mashiach Tzidkenu. Amen. Those of you that have questions, please unmute the microphone, and you can ask them. I'll make the show very short. There's more to it, but I'm making it short. Those of you that want to ask, Steven, Moadim Lesimcha, how are you?
Add to you, Rav. Add to you, Rav. It is related to the Moed, but as a first, why is it in Galut? We have to keep 2 days where we've got a fixed calendar and we know exactly which day the festival's for.
Okay, so in the olden days, I'm going to give you the answer from the Mishnah and the
I know
Gemarot,
that answer, yeah.
And then I'm going to bring you a different answer that the commentary bring to them. So Hazal say in the olden days, they didn't have calendar like we have today. And they have a debate if it's Yom Tov today or not. So they constitute for him 2 days, not to make a mistake. That's Nachon?
Nachon.
Okay. Come, the Mefarshim explain that in Eretz Israel, the spiritual divine that you can get, the holy divine that you can get, because the land of Eretz Israel is so holy, you can get that kedusha, that holiness, in 1 day. You can absorb it. But in the diaspora, because the diaspora is not holy like the land of Eretz Israel, it's very difficult to accept that holiness, okay, in 1 day. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu have mercy and compassion on us and divide it to 2. So we can absorb that holiness and we can receive it stage by stage. You follow what I'm saying?
Got it, yeah.
Beseder?
Beseder. Then the second part of the question I want to ask is that there's a big machloket as to when people go from Galut to Eretz Israel, whether they should keep 2 days or 1 day, and the rabbis in Galut say 2 days. In Israel, they say 1 day. It's a whole big deal.
So lehalacha what paskin? Lehalacha, you want to know the Gansen answer? The Gansen tachlis. Ben Israel, the person that live in Eretz Israel and come to the diaspora, okay, for a visit, and he been here during during the festival.
Yeah.
You have to keep 1 day.
Yeah.
1 day. Why is a visitor here? Ben Hul, that means a person from the diaspora gone to Eretz Israel,
Yeah.
and didn't made Aliyah, have to keep 2 days.
Yeah.
Pashut, 2 days. Why? Because he doesn't consider as Toshav Keva. He's not a person that lives permanently in the land of Eretz Israel. Therefore, Hala ala b'chumra is obligated to keep 2 days of Yom Tov. Beseder?
But there's in Israel, there's rabbis who paskin lekula, that they say those people are there who keep 1 day.
Some people say if you have, Stephen, some people say if you have a house in Eretz Israel and you live in a diaspora, it's considered like you're living in
But
Eretz
people
Israel.
don't even have homes.
So you live overseas. So I'm just saying, halacha, you wanted halacha, this is the halacha.
I know the
most
halacha.
of the Gedolim agree
I'm
to
just
it.
asking where it's a mess, because at the end of the day, the whole thing is such a mess. In Eretz Israel, the Rabbonim who say yes, they can keep 1 day, and it's just a mess. We say, I know the rabbis in the Chutz La'aretz say, Manaseh, enough.
אין מה לעשות, הכי okay. Anyway, בסדר, Stephen?
That's it.
Okay, any other question, Rabotai, Chavod? Those of you that have any other question.
Hello? Can you hear me?
I can hear you, I can hear you, I can
Hello,
hear
Anthony,
you,
how are you?
Anthony. Baruch Hashem, Moadim
Why do we
L'Simcha, how are you,
say
Antonio?
How are you?
Baruch
Why
Hashem,
do we
yes,
say half
Anthony.
halal on HaMoed? Pesach, only half halal.
Okay, if you look at the Hallel that we're saying, that's because if you look, it's like one hug, okay? It's like one continuity of hug, because we have Aleph the Pesach and then we have Shvi'i Shel Pesach. In the meantime, but Shvi'i Shel Pesach, it's a different festival. Shvi'i Shel Pesach, it's a different festival. Why is it a different festival? Because what is Shvi'i Shel Pesach? Shvi'i Shel Pesach was the day that the 7th day after Bnei Israel left the land of Egypt in the month of Nisan, in the year 2448 from the creation. They left Egypt on the 15th of Nisan. And the 7th day, they arrived where? In a sea of reeds. And there was the different miracle. What was the miracle there? The splitting of the sea. You understand? So it's come to tell you that the main reason that we have that, it's not like in Sukkot, that we say all of Sukkot, or in Hanukkah, we say all of Hanukkah, a full Hallel. Because that is the second part of the Yom Tov. It's not really the part of the Yom Tov, okay? The second part of the Yom Tov that you celebrate, what is the second part? Is the splitting of the sea. Between them that we have the 7 days that we're not allowed to eat HaMoed, nachon, but it's not a Yom Tov. The Yom Tov that coming after that, it's a separate festival. It's called Shvi'i Shel Pesach, the 7th day of Pesach. That's the splitting of the sea. Beseder?
I think
Anthony?
so, but I still see, isn't that the reason? Because we're not so happy because the Egyptians died in the Red Sea. So we can't be too happy. That's why we only say half halal. We can't be too happy to say full halal.
Why?
Is it something like that?
But we say Hallel in Shvi'i Shel Pesach.
But not full halal.
Nachon?
We can't be too happy, we're not so happy because some of our creatures died.
Not some of the creatures, some of the human beings died. Ma'aseh yadai tova'im bayam v'atem omrim Hallel. That's Hazal said that's in a Gemara. Why do we don't say Hallel then? Because for the simple reason that on the 7 days of Pesach, what's happened? The Egyptian, HaKadosh Baruch Hu drowned the Egyptian while he split the sea for the Jewish people. And the Egyptian, he killed them in the sea, they drowned.
That's right, yes.
Yeah. Beseder?
Okay, thanks very much.
Beseder? Any other question? Any other question? Bechavod. Anyone
Yes,
have any
Rob.
questions?
Good evening. Yes, I do.
Oh,
From what you've
Jeffrey,
been teaching
I saw
us.
that you come a bit late.
I was
Obviously missed the message.
slightly late, but I made a mistake with timing.
No problem.
Rob, something which affects us. We've just had the first 2 days of Pesach, then followed by Shabbos, and we were wearing all our good clothes. Now, we need those clothes for the last 2 days. That's the new Chag, and you're supposed to prepare for new Chag. So therefore, shouldn't be able to wash your clothes and to iron them in preparation for that.
So that's a different issue. When I say no laundry, it's all in a condition, and it's a very good question that you ask. If a person have one trouser or one shirt or one vest, okay, for example, one set from every clothes, you're obligated to wash them because they don't smell nice. Then there's no prohibition working. The prohibition of laundry, if you have a spare shirt or you have a spare trouser and etc. But people that doesn't have, let's say, more than 3 shirts, because a person can't wear more than 1 shirt a day because wet and smelly, you know what I'm saying? And people will, in that case that he doesn't, Hazal didn't pass him for us. Why? Because he have the clean clothes before Yom Tov. He had those clean clothes before Yom Tov. The only reason that they got dirty because he sweat or because he eat and he missed, whatever the case is. In that case, there is a leniency that you can wash the shirt, or you can wash the trouser, or you can wash the socks, the underwear, whatever necessary stuff.
Okay,
also, Hazal saying the halacha, if a person, let's say, got some mark on his clothes. Okay, he was drinking Sheva, the 4 cups, and some wine spilled on him. He allowed to take that shirt, to put it with detergent in the water. Why? He not allowed to do laundry, but he allowed to leave it in the water. Why? So not to lose the shirt, because if you're not going to put it immediately in a detergent in the water, you might going to lose the shirt. So in that case, Hazal say that there is a said mamon that you're going to lose money. Therefore, that Hazal didn't pass him. So there is a leniency to do.
Right.
Right. Any other question? Any other question regarding the Chol HaMoed? There is a question, I don't know how many of you know, are you allowed to wash your car? The Mefarshim ask in Chol HaMoed. A person allowed to take his car to the car wash, there's no problem with that. A person, obviously, if he have a puncture or something like that, he allowed to fix it. Okay, because he need it. He get benefit from it. He want to travel, he want to drive to shul, he need it. Therefore, you're allowed to do that. Why to wash the car you allowed on Yom Tov? Because a person get pleasure from washing the car. Obviously, for Pesach, everyone in advance clean the car, so the car is washed and clean and vacuumed. There's no problem with that. No HaMoed. No, everything is done already in honor of the car. In honor of the Hag, sorry, not in honor of the Hag. Okay, Rabotai, I hope that you enjoyed the show. I hope that it's given you the idea. What does it mean, Chol HaMoed? Circular and holy. We try to tackle all the halachot, the tefillin, the davening, and to understand why we have those days that call Chol HaMoed. To repeat it again, to study peace, in tranquility, in happiness. By that we study Torah. The main idea of Chol HaMoed is to sit and study Torah, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will bring us the physical prosperity and the spiritual prosperity. So Be'ezrat Hashem, that we should all merit to have that physical and spiritual prosperity. Amen. Ken Yeh Ratzon. I would like to wish all of you
Amen.
second
Amen.
part of Pesach that should be Hag Kasher V'Sameach to all of us, that we should all enjoy. I know that Thursday night is the last day of Pesach. It's going to be very tricky because we need to help the wife to put things. I'll see how's it going regarding the shiur, maybe for Parashat Shmini. We'll see how we're going to do it. It's most unlikely that we're going to make it. I'm looking here at the calendar. I don't think that this coming Thursday, we'll have a shiur. But Be'ezrat Hashem, we'll have next Sunday, Be'ezrat Hashem, a shiur. Again, we'll meet again. I'm sure that this coming Shabbos we'll have a shiur at Yeshiva College regarding Parashat HaShavua. That's between Mincha and Mariv in a big shul. Those of you that can attend to the shiur, I would love to see you between Mincha and Mariv at Yeshiva College. An hour before Mincha, not between Mincha and Mariv, an hour before Mincha at Yeshiva College and a big shul. We're going to have a shiur on Parashat Shmini, because this is the coming Parasha. In the meantime, to wish all of you a beautiful Moadim L'Simcha, and to wish you all Hag Kasher V'Sameach, the second part of Yom Tov.
Amen. Toda rabba. Harav.
Thank you, Rav. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Thank you. Have a good night. Bye-bye.
Bye.